I really focus on the client experience and being an expert in what I do, but I believe really strongly in work-life balance. I love, achieving certain numbers and stuff like that, but I don't care about that nearly as much as I care about, having dinner with my family 5 nights a week. It's my wife and my kids. All of this, all the real estate stuff, it's to have a good lifestyle for them and to have good experiences with them, and they come first.
I'm here today with Michael Gross of our Edina West office. Michael has been with RE/MAX Results almost 6 years, just over 6 years, but you've been in the RE/MAX network for 21 years. You started out with your dad, who was a former RE/MAX broker owner. What was the name of his brokerage?
RE/MAX Home Realty.
RE/MAX Home Realty.
In Prior Lake.
Okay. And I remember when you guys joined us, you moved into our Uptown office. It seems like a long time ago.
Yeah, it does.
So is that how you got your start in real estate?
It is, yeah. So my dad was a salesman for toy companies when I was very young.
Lucky you.
I know, yeah, no, it's true. We used to have the most amazing, we'd get all the cool toys before anybody. And so he was a salesman for toy companies, and then he got into some other sales. And then when I was a teenager, he got into real estate. So I was around it, all my teenage years growing up. Vowed I'd never be a realtor, just like many realtors' kids.
Where did you go to school?
Prior Lake.
Okay.
Prior Lake schools my whole life. I'm still friends with a bunch of people I met in high school or even elementary school.
I remember hearing a little something about you teaching. Wait, because your mom was a second grade school teacher, so you also taught at some point, and talk about that, because I don't think a lot of people know about that.
So what a lot of people don't know about me is that I never intended really to be a realtor full-time forever. Yeah. I started in real estate in 2002 when I graduated college because I had this space between college and grad school, and I figured I needed to get a job anyway, and I might as well work with my dad and learn a little bit more about the real estate business and what he does. But the ultimate goal was to get into grad school. I ended up going to Princeton Seminary out east. And so my undergrad study was theology. And then I did a Master of Divinity at Princeton, which for those of you who don't know, it's like a master's program plus a year. It's a 3-year program. And so I was out at Princeton for 3 years, and I thought initially I would be a pastor of a church.
I never knew that.
And
okay.
And then while I was there, I really got into the academic side of things and decided I think I want to be a professor. When I graduated from the program, I took a little detour. I went to Guatemala for a year because I got this study grant and from Princeton. And so I went to Guatemala and I studied religion and politics in Guatemala for a time. And then I came back to Minnesota and started teaching at my alma mater, which is Bethel University. And so I was an adjunct there. I taught theology, and I did that for 12 years.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know
in fact,
that.
I just stopped a few years ago.
Yeah.
4 years ago, right before the pandemic.
We have quite a few Bethel.
Yeah, right. I know.
At RE/MAX.
So so at the time I was teaching a ton. 12 years ago or 14 years ago, I was teaching a lot, more than real estate. But I feel like I had this sort of double kind of career. On the one hand, this academia stuff really influenced by my mom. On the other hand, I really loved selling real estate, and I just did that off and on in the summers throughout grad school. And I found it to be pretty natural, and I loved working with people. And so I did that concurrently, both of them, for years and years. And then slowly I lessened the teaching load and increased the real estate portion. And by the very last few years of teaching, I was for sure full-time real estate, and kind of teaching was almost like a hobby I loved. It doesn't really pay much. So that was, but I loved it. And I still feel like today that I have these two sides, the academic side and the real estate side. So
that's very cool.
But one allowed for a family life a little more easily than the other, I guess.
I was pulling some stats on you, And I don't even think you knew this. I told you this before, the cameras were rolling, and that you're, as of our Q2 of 2023, out of 1,300 sales executives, you are pulling in at number 5 for independent or individual agents total commissions earned. I don't even think you were aware of that because your nose is to the ground, whatever it is that you're doing. But you did finish last year at number 8. So you're not slowing down, much like a lot of people right now. And so you must be feeling it though, the shift in the economy, but what are you doing differently?
I'm doing my best to keep in touch with my database. And by database, I don't mean anyone who's ever emailed me or reached out on a lead. I have a precious list of people who have bought houses who are still, or condos or townhouses, who are still in those places. As long as I keep in touch with them, will use me to sell it when they're ready to transition. They'll also refer me to their friends. So they're like my tightest, database, and I reach out to them in really organic ways.
What do you do? How do you reach out to them, or how do you?
Yeah.
You're not sending a drip email, or
I don't do drip emails.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't do that. I don't offer the advice for staging your home when someone's not ready to stage their home. I don't do that stuff.
Okay.
I always reach out to them on the anniversary of their closing date. With a bomb video, and it's always personalized. I don't do the generic one.
That's
I'll
nice.
say like, "Hi, Jason and Kelsey. I was thinking about you today because 4 years ago on this day you closed on your house, and I remember how happy you were that day." Sometimes I'll attach a photo that I took back then,
awesome.
so they can see themselves, and then I'll write down, their kids' names and ages. Elise must be 3 years old. I've got a 3-year-old, and I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. I don't ask for referrals. I just reach out and tell them I was thinking about them, and so that's one of the big touches.
Okay.
I've started doing the client appreciation parties. So just a couple weeks ago, I did the big one for this year.
Okay.
And it started really organically. It started in 2020 when the Renaissance Festival was closed.
Okay.
Because I'm a big Renaissance Festival dork.
Me too.
And so I've got the outfit and all that stuff.
Oh, you get all dressed up?
Oh, yeah,
Do you?
for sure.
Oh, I
Yep.
need to see a picture.
Yeah. So in 2020, I just organized like a backyard Renaissance party for our family and a couple other close families.
And you dressed up?
Oh, yeah.
Of course, because you need a reason to.
Well, and all of the actors and jugglers and stuff they didn't have a job. So I just found the best one to come to my backyard.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
then I was thinking like, this would be great for a client appreciation thing. And that's what it's turned into. So on the 16th of September, I had about 180 people into my backyard.
Mm-hmm.
I got 100 Chipotle burritos, and we got a bouncy castle and a face painter and fire jugglers and goats and bunnies, and I strung up a zip line, and so that's another way. But the party is like, that's the really fun thing. But it also gives me an excuse to reach out and invite everybody. So it starts with here's a save the date bomb video.
Yep.
Then it's the formal invite, which isn't formal. It's me dressed up in my dorky stuff, holding my kids. And then it's hey, it's 2 days away. And then it's, hey, if you missed the party, check out this reel I posted on Instagram. So it's 4 touches, and all it is a party invite.
Yeah.
So people feel really great about it. It's not marketing, directly.
Yep.
It's this indirect, organic, hey, I miss you. Come, have a good time with me.
Yep.
If you missed it this year, join me next year.
Awesome.
And then I do Christmas cards. I send them the same holiday card that I would send my family and my friends. I send it to my whole network with my home address as the return address. I just treat them like they're my friends, because I feel like
They are your friends.
Yeah, like if I had infinite time, I would be friends with most of my clients. Like I really enjoy getting to know people, being a part of like a really intimate decision moment in someone's life. It's just a powerful thing. And so, I had 2 newborns come to this party. I heard their birth stories, and so I really enjoy tracking with people. And that, I think, does lead to organic repeat business and referrals. And anyway,
That's awesome.
That's my long-winded answer.
No,
to what
I love
I'm
that.
doing.
I want to segue to something that we were talking about earlier, and can we talk about your grandmother? I love to hear the backstories on influencers, and a lot of times it's your parents, and I'm sure you have some to share about your dad too.
Oh, for sure.
But
yeah. Yeah. So we were just chatting kind of informally before the interview, and
yes.
I mentioned that my grandmother was a Depression era child, and so she would always go to garage sales and buy everything and keep everything and kind of hoard everything. And I feel like in the real estate world, I'm a recession era realtor because I got into this in 2002 and things were booming back then, and I was young, and I found it really natural and great to sell real estate, and then it got super hard, and I just carry that memory with me today. And in our informal conversation, I was saying that's why I haven't built a team, because I run a really lean ship. I really focus on the client experience and being an expert in what I do. But I believe really strongly in work-life balance. I'm never going to get top heavy. I can always make maneuvers to respond to market conditions very quickly. And I think that that's just crucial in this business. We are really, connected to the economy, to the job employment rate, to the interest rate. I mean, we're influenced by that stuff. So we have to be able to pivot when conditions change.
Did you ever explore running a team?
I did. Yeah, I went to the Teams event. I was really looking at it because everybody I know for years has told me to start a team.
It was a really, really big thing for a while. Everybody, and then it kind of slowed the momentum. Now teams are still very popular, but just as popular being independent. So why did you choose not to form a team?
I really care about work-life balance a lot. And being an independent realtor gives you a tremendous amount of independence. And I don't have any, agents under me that are depending on me. I don't have any mouths to feed. I don't have any kind of top-heavy advertising stuff. But also, I feel like being this recession era realtor, I saw my dad do it. He built a really big team.
Okay.
And he built it right as the Great Recession was getting underway.
Yeah.
It ran beautifully for a couple of years, and then market conditions changed, and it was harder to pivot with this big team. And so that's made me really reluctant to do it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe too reluctant to do it.
And you're talking about 2008.
Yes, yeah.
Just so everybody understands.
Yeah, just in case you weren't doing real estate back then.
Yeah.
He had it from 2002 through 2008, but there just wasn't a big enough pie for people to share, and it got really, really tough. And then transactions became short sales and foreclosures and all this really heavy, awful stuff. And anyway, so that's why I never grew a team. In real estate, we're always celebrating GCI, the gross commission income. What people are bringing in the door, and what I ultimately care about is the net, right? How much time am I spending doing what I'm doing, and how am I benefiting my family and my lifestyle from it? And I want to maximize that equation. And I've found, for me, it works best if it's just me.
Yeah, yeah. We have teams that are sizable that net less than individual agents. It just, there's different motivators. That's interesting that you bring that up.
But I will say this, it is crucial. So someone in my position, I have realtors I collaborate with and work with. So I travel a lot, take a lot of trips with the family. I always have a couple of people on backup. And that's crucial. I mean, this isn't really something you can do alone.
You need someone to cover.
Yeah, you have to have that support network and a team of sorts. I just don't want to have the formal, Michael Gross real estate team.
That's important to have the backup. So what are your goals for next year? Maybe the next 2-3 years. Are you a goal setter?
I am a goal setter, but I tend to focus on shorter term goals.
Okay.
Like weekly and monthly goals more than yearly goals.
Yeah, I get that.
And part of it is because I feel like the yearly goal, it's just so easy to fall off the wagon, and then it's hard to get back on if you don't make your New Year's resolution or whatever. So like, for example, I have a goal to run 20 miles a week. And I don't always make it, but then there's always next week. And so that's kind of like what I have a goal to go on a date night with my wife every week. I don't always make it, but I usually do.
If you miss one week, does she get 2 the following week?
I mean, the childcare is the tricky thing there. But
yeah, that is. And how old are your kids again?
I have a 3-year-old and almost 5.
I can't believe he's 5. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But I do have yearly goals too. The thing that I try my best to do is think in kind of a myriad of categories in my life. So I have real estate goals, business goals. I have personal fitness goals. I have relationship goals with my friends. And I have relationship goals with my wife. And so I try to...
Can I ask? What are I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, that's good.
What are the relationship goals with your friends? Because of course you always hear about people having relationship goals, with their family, their kids, their spouse, their significant other, but your friends.
Yeah. I have a goal to go out on a lunch, a lunch date or a guy night, regularly with all the friends I have.
That's good.
Because otherwise I find that it's so easy to be reactive. Life is busy, and if you're not proactive about the things you care about, they just fall by the wayside. And I think that's true in all kinds of categories, which is why I try to really think critically about multiple areas of my life, because you can focus really hard on real estate and have a terrible relationship. It's easy. It bleeds into all these, evenings, and you do go out on a date night, and that's the time that there's a deadline for a purchase agreement. I mean, it's easy to just let life happen and be an organism responding to stimuli.
But you're successful in real estate. You're a successful businessman, but you're not letting it affect your relationships, whether with your spouse, your family, or your friends, because. Especially when you get married and you have kids, your friends, remember the guys you used to see, I can see that. So I think that's really cool.
Before I had my son, and I'm an old dad, so I was 38 when my son was born. I was 40 when my...
Yeah, you're really old there, Michael.
But I've been doing real estate for so long, and I was doing pretty good numbers and stuff, and I was kind of panicking that as soon as I have kids, my business I just have to plan for a 40% cut in what I make. And I was stressing about it. I went to R4. I intentionally met with people to be like, okay, how do you do this with kids? I mean, I feel like I've been almost cheating because I've just been doing this and I can work all the time. And and I was really nervous about the work-life balance, but I also knew that I wouldn't let real estate get in the way of my family. I love, achieving certain numbers and stuff like that, but I don't care about that nearly as much as I care about, having dinner with my family 5 nights a week. Like I really think that that's beautiful, sacred, precious time. And maybe because I'm a little bit of an older parent and I have a more established career, I just feel like time is always fleeting with them. And so I make it such a priority. So before having kids, I thought, man, I'm going to take a major cut, and that's okay, but I got to plan for it. I got to figure out how other people do it. And then I found that when I became really intentional with creating boundaries around work and I had kids, my business grew more and more every year.
Wow.
And it was all unexpected, but the fascinating thing is it suddenly gave me a way to relate with almost everybody. I mean, anyone with kids. I was so passionate about having kids and the whole excitement in the early days and all of that I still, when I hear somebody's birth story or something, it reawakens all of that in me. And
it always will.
Yeah.
It always will.
And so I found after having kids, suddenly I was able to relate to clients even better. And I was able to do my job in a little bit different way. Now I always have a bunch of knickknacks in my car. I have like those punching balloons and little magnet pads for kids to draw on and little butterflies that wind up that kids, so I always have something for kids, if they need to be entertained a little during a showing. And I feel like I'm aware in different ways about that. But but having kids has And having those boundaries, I find other people respect them. I'll say, look, between 6 and 7, I can't show any homes because that's dinner time and bedtime. They still go to bed really early, but that's the window. I can show you at 7:30, no problem. I can show you at 5:30, but 6 to 7, I'm out.
Yeah.
And and people hear that and they're like,
though.
wow, good for you.
Yeah. So did you, was your dad your coach, your mentor, I'm assuming, or have you worked with other coaching organizations?
I've never done the coaching thing.
That's good. Yeah.
So
You don't, it sounds like a lot of times people do the coaching because they need the accountability, but how do you stay motivated? Like you're accountable for yourself. It's just in you.
I've always felt like I'm kind of an internally driven person, and maybe a little bit of an extremist.
You must be, because you run marathons. What's your next big hairy goal? Like something?
Well, I definitely want to run at least 12 marathons in my life. I'm halfway there.
Okay, 12.
Yeah. So
one is usually like a goal. Okay, good for you.
I've always been kind of just, when I get into something, I get pretty passionate about it. I'm the guy that doesn't drink one cup of coffee. I drink the whole pot. That's just, and so my dad's influence on me began when I was a little kid, and my mom was a big influence on me too. But
what did your mom do?
So my mom was a second grade school teacher.
Okay.
And I feel like I'm sort of a combination of both of their influences. And it's maybe more explicit than I maybe realized at first. But so my mom was the first woman in her family to go to college. Not everyone supported her in that. And she grew up on farms and went to college, became a second grade school teacher, and always valued academia and studying and reading. And so she really fostered that in me, and I really fostered that too. And I went to college, I went to grad school, I taught at a university for 12 years. And so that's sort of the academic influence from my mom. And then my dad, being a salesman, wanted to impart that to me. So he helped me start Michael's lawn service when I was 12. And he had me write down like my pricing and go around to the neighbors and try to sell them my lawn services, even though I was using his tractor and his gas and his
He's
stuff.
teaching you to be the entrepreneur.
I remember when I was in middle school, there was one of those fundraisers. They always try to get the kids to sell cheese platters and
candy bars or whatever.
Meats and nut mixes and stuff. And I really wanted to win, and because the grand prize was like $300 in 1992, so it was a fortune, And so he spent every day with me after school, going from door to door to door. He didn't go up to the door with me, obviously, but he would, give me rides in the minivan.
So he wanted you to win too.
Oh yeah, and I did. I did 3 years in a row.
Oh my
and
gosh.
just blew everyone out of the water.
Well, that explains so much.
But it was all his time, like delivering all this stuff was just, oh my gosh, it took forever.
Yeah, you're gonna do the same thing with your children.
But I remember like going up to the doors, and he would coach me. He'd say, not everyone's going to want to hear what you have to say, and that's okay. It's just a numbers game. Just move on to the next one. And that's just so true in sales. So,
I love that. That's a great story.
By the time I got into real estate, though, it was the same. As a 22-year-old, you don't own a house. Well, I actually just did buy my house, but normally you don't own a house yet, or you're just brand new, and most of the people you're working with are older. And so I was terrified as a 22-year-old. Didn't feel relevant, and coached me on this.
Yeah, what's your advice? Because we have a lot of people in their early 20s listening to this podcast. What's your advice to them? Like, how did you?
Well, so number one, I do think if you're a realtor, you got to own a piece of real estate. I don't care if it's a 1-bedroom condo. I don't care what it is, but you got to own real estate. And then after you own real estate, you have to get a rental. You just have to do that. Because once you do that, number one, it's kind of like the realtor's version of stock options. You get 2.7 off the top, right? Like you get your commission off the top. If you work with a lender partner, that lender partner is probably going to give you a little deal too. So immediately you're getting a deal on whatever you buy. And then you're an investor, and you get to talk with a bunch of people about real estate investing. And then you see it in a different way too. You can say, well, okay, rents go up over time, but mortgages stay the same or even go down if you refinance. And so cash flow over time increases. And meanwhile, even if things appreciate only on pace with inflation, a 360 house will be worth $57,000 more 5 years from now.
Yep.
And so you can do the numbers, distill it, lead with your example. And by the way, if real estate, has a slow time, you're planting a seed for passive income in the future.
Yeah.
And all of that is a no-brainer. But if you're in your 20s and you're starting in this business, you got to do some role playing too. You got to have the conversations with other people to iron out some of the kinks and be as natural as you can.
Role playing.
Yeah.
I'm sure you did that with your dad.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I said a lot of, I feel like I learned a lot of things like just through trial and error too, as you do in this business.
Have you ever mentored anyone?
People take me out for coffee a lot and they'll pick my brain.
They'll pick your brain, yeah.
But I do think everyone wants like the nuggets. They're like, what are the 3 things that...
Yes.
And that's just not how it works.
Yeah.
There are a myriad of things. I guess I could say like, hey, always be the first one to end the meeting. Don't look desperate. Don't let a meeting go over an hour. You're a busy person, right? You gotta show your value. And don't talk somebody's ear off. Let them talk and listen. There's all of those things. Don't inject your opinion about the aesthetics of a house. If there's foundation problems, tell them not to buy it. That's okay.
Yeah.
But if you don't like the kitchen, get your opinion out of it. They might like the kitchen.
Yes. Great advice.
So there's those little nuggets, but it is if you're young in the business, you need a mentor.
If your clients were listening to this episode, hopefully, that you'd like them to know about you, or potential new clients, like what is something that you do that that in your opinion, that makes you unique or stand out from other realtors?
Well, I think every realtor is trying to, provide good service and stuff like that. Yep. And I certainly do that too. But I think it's really important to think at a strategic level about what a client's longer term goals are. Number one, I don't want to just get a sale. I want to develop a relationship. I want to be the family realtor forever and ever and ever. I want to have a nice review on Google or Zillow or something from a client, but I really do want to stay in touch and make sure that they're really, really happy. And occasionally when things come up, this happened a year and a half ago or so, where there was freeze damage in a house. I was representing the buyer. It ended up being an insurance claim from the home inspector, but at the time, all the pipes froze and burst. Wow. And it was just a terrible thing. No one wanted to take responsibility. And I literally hired the plumber and had it replumbed. And I'm not saying that every realtor needs to do that, but I will do everything in my power to make sure that a client's experience is good, even if it really eats into my profit margin, because I'm looking at that long-term satisfaction. I want them to be happy. And so when I'm helping a buyer, I am a consultant more than a salesperson. I have a bunch of rental houses and I've remodeled them and fixed all kinds of things. And so I'm always trying to help them see hidden costs. And if they're a newlywed couple planning on having a family, I'm going to tell them they might want to think about bedroom arrangements instead of buying that bungalow with the master bedroom primary upstairs. When I'm helping a seller these days, it's all about strategy. Hey, I've got a house. How do I sell it and buy the one I want? And it requires some deeper thinking there.
Yeah.
And so, hey, did you know you could rent it out as long as you have 30% equity? Use the rent to qualify for the next place. You can sell it within 3 years and not pay capital gains taxes. Trying to create a path where they feel like this can be more seamless.
That's really good.
Is crucial.
You're also kind of a data junkie, like me.
Yeah, it's important to, you got to know.
Yeah.
You got to know.
More so than the typical realtor. Just in my encounters with you, I feel like sometimes we can speak on the same level when we deep dive into like you're talking about, you're paying attention to, personal consumption expenditures and consumer price index and
Yeah.
inverted yield curves. And, you like that stuff and you follow that.
And also there's such great resources, right?
Yep.
Minneapolis Area Association of Realtors. You can go in and get the info and
Yep.
get the monthly reports.
Yep.
I mean, everyone's got to read the monthly reports. You've
Yep.
got to know,
Gotta know the data.
How do the prices compare to 12 months ago? How do the sales volume compare?
Yep.
You got to know that.
You were talking one time at a round table, and I want you to, some analysis or some data on, what was it that you were talking about at the Edina West round table one time?
Was it appreciation?
Oh no, was it you, or am I confusing it with Ryan Fisher? You guys were going back and forth on the something with the Zillow saves and views, but we don't have to go.
Oh,
to
yeah. Yeah, okay.
Do you want to talk about that?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, Michael, what's an example of a piece of data that's out there that that you like to play with and use in your day-to-day?
Yeah, so, listing a place it's part science, part art. We do everything we can do in a comparative market analysis to get the listing price right. And then we put it out there, we market it, we boost it, we do all the stuff we do. And by we, I mean all realtors do this, right?
Yeah.
And we do our best, and then the market speaks, and either there's buyers for it or there's not, and either the price and the photos are working or they're not. So I always look at every kind of data analytics stuff I can. I look at how many views it's getting on Zillow as kind of the representation for broader online activity, since Zillow is so popular, and what percentage of those are turning into saves. If it's not at least 5%, I'm going to consider that a negative indicator. And when I do a listing update, which you got to do regularly because it's really stressful to sell a house when you're the seller, so then I can say okay, well here's how our online activity is performing, and here's how it's turning into showing activity, and here's the feedback from the showing, and we should get an offer for every 7 showings or so, and we've had 14 with no offers. And so what are the obstacles between someone buying your place?
Yep.
And then we can talk that through. And a lot of times it's price. Usually it's price. Sometimes it's a smelly cat in the basement. It could be other things too. But giving concrete information rather than, it's not selling. And sometimes I think realtors start to ignore their clients.
No, you're really doing a deep dive and they're like, oh, this guy.
And to stay
knows.
ahead of it, right? You've got to just stay ahead of it and be in the driver's seat as a seller. And so helping sellers do that is important, and setting the expectations too.
Yep.
Here's the listing range. We're going to pick a price. You get to pick the price, but here's what I'm recommending. And then we're going to follow all the data, and we're going to respond to that data. And
Weekly? Do you do weekly? If
sometimes multiple times in a week.
Okay.
Depending. So yeah.
Okay.
For sure weekly. But sometimes sellers need a little more than that because it's super stressful selling a house. But setting the expectation, and this is true for buyers too. You always have to set the expectations. Hey, we're going to do a home inspection tomorrow, and I just want you to know I'm so excited about the house you're buying, but it can be really hard to hear about all the issues it has all dumped on you all at once.
Yeah.
So let me tell you a few things that you're probably going to hear tomorrow. To set those expectations is really crucial because you're giving your clients, in this case a buyer, permission to still be excited and to know that this is normal, to run into negative grading around the perimeter or a dripping faucet or something.
Yeah.
So setting expectations is really crucial, and following the data when you're helping sellers.
I love that. That's really smart. So what keeps you motivated? What keeps you going? What's maybe something outside of selling real estate?
Well, for sure, it's my family. Yeah. I mean, that is, even before having kids, I wanted to be a dad. I was excited to be, it was always something off in the future. So even before I had kids, it was planning for, can I be financially stable enough to have kids and all that stuff. And now that I have kids, for sure, it's my wife and my kids. All of this, all the real estate stuff, it's to have a good lifestyle for them and to have good experiences with them, and they come first. I care deeply about my clients and my business, and I love it. I find it energizing, and if I won $1 million tomorrow or I guess that's not very much money these days. If I won $1 billion,
Yeah.
I'd still help clients find houses, because it's this incredible invitation to be a part of someone's journey.
Yep.
You know, when you think about it, people buy and sell houses at transition times in their lives. They just got out of college and got a job, and now they can finally, really feel like they're going off on their own. They just got engaged, or they just got married. They're just having a baby, or they just had their second baby.
It's milestones.
It's all, and it's the negative ones too. It's a divorce, downsizing, going into assisted living. I help older folks. Gosh, this year I've helped a lot of older folks. But it's just precious. It's precious moments. For the older folks, I love to go to somebody's house. I sold 2 of them this year where they owned it for over 50 years. And I go in, we have a cup of coffee. I just listen to stories for the first hour.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's so cool. And so to be invited into this space, I feel like it's a real privilege. And I am truly energized by it, and I love it. But the why behind all of it is my family.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And thanks for being on the show.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.